This is the pulse rifle from Aliens. The casting that I've got here is obviously a resin piece. The detail is not real crash hot, and it's been done in two halves that don't really line up very well. So I'm going to work on it in a very similar way to what I did with the Terminator pieces, in that I'm going to cut it up into its constituent pieces, work out what parts can be individually cast, work out what parts need to be repaired and resculpted as far as missing details are concerned and all that sort of thing. This will be a project that for the first time I'll be able to use the milling machine, and I hope to be able to make up these components out of the proper sheet metal and form and shape them into the right shape, and then mill these slots into it, whereas previously I've had to do that sort of stuff by hand or using a drill. As usual, I'm going to be working in aluminium for this. I have got one there which is, I think, by the feel of it, does feel like an aluminium component. There's another small piece there which has clearly been made from steel given the weight comparison and the way they've done the welds on this. That does give me a size that I need for the barrel. That piece is a far more accurate representation of what that piece should be. You can also see that the spacing of the milling here doesn't seem to be quite right, and these details seem to be a little bit more accurate as well. So again, I'm using my photo research, of which there's loads for this particular project, and we'll see how it sort of pans out. You can sort of see that when the alignment is right at the back here, how much it's out in alignment there. So really what it comes down to is I need to cut everything up, correct all the parts individually, and then work out the reassembly of it so that it fits together the way it should. The other big detail with it, or more to the point, lack of detail with it, is that there's a bit of bleeding in some of the cast pieces, and there's a lot of detail that's been lost in terms of the smaller component pieces. Again, I think what I'm going to do is pretty much trim them off the surface so that I can work out where the clean surface is, and I'll either resculpt these pieces completely or essentially just see what I can do to repair them so that they're a better match for the screen used version. So let's get into it. So that's all the bits cut off and separated into what I'm calling their individual sections. The biggest thing with the housing and the magazine area is that that really probably should be in one piece. So that's something that I'm going to be reassembling back into its proper shape. It goes over it and encloses all the component pieces the way it should. The other thing with this is that clearly should be a hollowed piece. So what I'll probably do once I get this all fixed up is to hollow that out on the inside, give it an appropriate wall thickness so that it works properly, but sort it out in such a way that it allows enough for the little electronic components and stuff. There's a lot of unevenness in the actual flatness of the surface, and you can see that there's some voids in the casting itself. It's not really going to matter too much for the sake of what I'm doing. I just want to make sure that all the surfaces are as close to what I would call original as I can possibly make them. You can see I've been able to cut off the shotgun slide. That's a piece that should be together, definitely I think as one piece. But you might be able to see there that the spacing and the alignment of those joints isn't 100%. And I think it's also probably nearly half a centimetre too little in the way of material between the two halves. I hope to be able to cast that as a solid aluminium piece as well. And what I mean by solid is in one piece, but still maintains that sort of cup shape. So it ends up being a really durable piece for the slide action that we're going to try and work into this. The other thing I need to do is to work out where the proper extension for these parts need to be. As you can see, that's the bit that's been cut off there. And normally that would be a cover piece that sort of goes over that piece, and this would extend inside the framework of that shrouding piece. So really the big thing to do now is to glue together all these individual pieces and start correcting those shapes, including the spacing and the channeling and all that sort of stuff, so that that's back to an original masterpiece. And from there I can work out what parts I'm actually going to cast and what parts will be manufactured. So that's the parts starting to be glued back together and sort of thickened up where need be. This is going to take a couple of different rounds of this sort of process to get them all sorted out. And at the moment, all I can really do is sit around and wait for this stuff to dry so that it's 100% hardened and cured. So that's the update for this time, guys. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.